Hey, this is Stacia, and we're going to take a look at my round of 5 game from the Ohio Congress 2022. So, this is the final round, and even though I slept only 3 hours the night before and I was pretty tired, I decided I would try to go ahead and give it my all in round 5. If for nothing else, as practice to play when you're exhausted. I do think that there's a certain benefit from experience playing when you're extremely tired and pushing through those types of issues, especially as an adult. I think that's important. So okay, but kids too, for sure. All right, so this game, speaking of kids, I played a kid. He seemed about 8 or 9 years old, if I had to guess, and his name was Shahari. And very nice kid, very pleasant. And he had the white pieces and opened with e4. So, okay, I went e5, he went knight f3, I went knight c6, and he played bishop to c4. This is the Italian game, and I like to play knight f6 against this, and he went d3. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a closed game, most likely. So after d3, I just play bishop c5. Let's get the bishop outside the pawn chain before we commit ourselves with d6. He played knight c3, which is a very kid-like move. They love to put the knights on the best squares, and then a6. Okay. So I'm just saying, before I go d6, I want to stop this move knight to a4, which would basically pick up my bishop. So I'm going to make a little home for my bishop on a7. And he then challenged the bishop with bishop to e3. Now, I thought briefly about bishop a7, but after bishop takes and rook takes, I'm not so sure about this. I mean, I kind of wonder if maybe white could immediately break it open with d4 here, just taking advantage of the fact that my pieces are a little awkward. And if I go d6, I'm not sure this kind of thing is going to work out for me. Like, for example, if takes and takes, well, here they could trade queens. If I take with a knight, they can take here. That doesn't look so good. Also hits f7. And if I take with a king, they can grab this. I don't know. Something doesn't feel right about this. So I didn't think this was the way to go. So instead, I just simply took. And we do open the F file for the white pieces, and we give them a little more center control. But in return, you know, this pawn might be weak. If they push here, this pawn might be weak. So who knows, right? D6, D4. Okay, so he played D4 right away. I mean, you know, when you see this move, it's like, is this good? Is it, or is it not? Because it's rarely just okay. Here I felt like this must be slightly premature. I mean, he's not castled. And okay, I don't think he's really threatening this. I could always just play knight e7. I don't think there's any issue there. And okay, I mean, there's no real threat, right? Like the knight and the pawn are guarding e5, so it's sufficiently covered and everything's good. So I just played bishop to g4. So this is challenging his center a little bit because the knight's helping to support that pawn. So right away, I'm causing a little bit of a problem, but not much. And he castled, and I castled. So okay, but I've got that pin at least. He went queen to d2. Now I have to tell you that when I first saw queen to d2, I was very suspicious. And then I was like, ooh, I'm going to win. Like, but I don't think that's totally true. Like, so what I was seeing was knight takes e4, knight takes c4, and d5. But I had to start calculating this carefully because You know, if I take on e4, I thought there's a chance he could just simply take on f7, you know, to get rid of that bishop. And then after rook takes, then he could take the knight. Yeah, I wasn't so sure about this, if this is really good, because then d5, you know, it attacks the knight, but then he even has knight f2, which would counterattack my bishop. I don't know. This didn't seem quite right. So let's have a look at this real quick. Yeah, if this move, wow, the engine just says like inaccurate, but it does want to take here, and then on d5, it gives a couple different moves. It gives bishop d3, and it also gives knight to f6. Yeah. Knight to f6 check. They can play this way, right? Because if knight f6 and I take with a queen, I feel like I'm jumping right into the line of fire here. So maybe they could even just play knight takes e5. And yeah, that is in fact the move. And now we've got some issues here. I guess we can play queen g5 so that when they take there, it's covered, but they could even take here. This is what the engine gives and says, now they can just go bishop d3, saving that piece, and that's that. Yeah, so I don't know. So I think my intuition was right, that this is playable, like this idea is playable. I also want to look at this really quick because I thought this is possible. It thinks black's better after rook takes f7, knight takes. All right, so here, why is black better? Let's see. So I could take on f3. Yeah, and that does take a guy away from that square. And then if they go rook takes, I could even take. This is starting to get interesting because position's opening up. I could play d5, followed by queen g5 check. I could even just try queen h5. I don't know. There's starting to be some ideas here. And okay, like for example, a computer gives e takes d4, e takes d4, and then queen d7. Queen d7. Maybe we're gonna go here and like start targeting. Maybe like this. I don't know. But I guess black's a little better here. It does feel that way, right? It kind of feels that way. The white pawns are kind of weird. The white king's kind of weird. But black's position looks reasonable. So, okay, that makes sense. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of explore that a tiny bit. And I did decide not to go for this though, because the lines I was looking at didn't feel quite like I was getting a clear advantage out of that. And yet there's complications. So I don't know. I think I would play it if I saw a clear advantage. Instead, though, I played this move, which is also very tempting, b5. Now, the idea behind b5 is that when the bishop moves, I can play, possibly, I could play b4. The knight is guarding e4. And if that knight moves away, I can always take. So that was sort of the idea there. But bishop d5, I felt was the best move. I take that, they take. And then I calculated this. E takes d4. So if you want to take my knight, go for it. I'll take your knight. And by the way, your queen's attacked now. So you probably have to go queen takes c6, I thought, guarding that. And I thought this position looked a little better for me because this e-pawn just looks like a glaring target, right? Like I've got an open e-file and I know how to use it. Like I'll just pile up on that thing. And this also looks a bit weak. It's not going to be, this pawn can never protect it. So I felt like here I'm just better. And let's see what the engine says. Yeah, black's better. Okay, so that's cool. So after takes, he actually took with a knight, which I felt was correct. This also leaves my bishop sort of just hanging out there a bit, which is good for white, I would say. and I played knight to e5. This is sort of my plan. And so I liked the fact that I have this target, I've got this idea, I've got this move covered. I don't know, I felt like this is potentially good. I was thinking about maybe f6 as a move, but that would blunder that, so gotta be careful. Yeah, so rook f4. Yeah, and here I analyzed this with a coach, one of my coaches, FN Livio Sorbulenko. And he was like sort of horrified that I played bishop h5. And that looked like the most natural move to me. So when that's the case, I know I'm learning something. He said, of course, bishop d7. Of course. That's the way he said it. But actually, it makes so much sense. I don't think I'll forget this. The point is that f5 we need to guard. c6 we need to guard. So, right, like you don't want the knight jumping into either of these squares. So actually guarding all these squares, like even f6 is more possible because there won't be a knight hopping into e6 at some point. So bishop d7, very strong move. Let's see if the engine agrees. Probably does. Yep, it likes bishop d7. What a surprise. The FIDE master was right. Who would have guessed? Yeah, instead I went bishop h5, and now the engine says white has a little bit of advantage again. All right, but okay, my idea, as flawed as it was, was that I was planning on playing bishop g6, which protects my king side a bit, although awkwardly doesn't protect this, and also guards f5 because I knew knight f5 might be coming, and it also, you know, has a nice diagonal. So what's wrong with that? Well, there's also this idea. I don't know. But bishop d7 was just a better move, just a better placement. Okay, so he went queen to e1. And I guess I didn't know this either, but this is sort of a common idea in the closed Italians and probably the Spanish too, where you've got this idea because the queen can now hop out to one of these squares and sort of start putting pressure on the king side, and a king side attack can happen, especially with knight f5. I think this is the correct decision by my young opponent. I played queen e8, which is probably not right. Yeah, I remember here, I think this is actually the right move. We'll ask the engine to verify, but I bet you it is. Yeah, it is one of the top moves. Also knight g6, which, okay, that's more concrete. But this move makes a lot of sense. First of all, I didn't play this because I thought there's going to be tons of pressure on f7, you know, so don't move your rook. But actually, it's totally fine. The bishop and the knight have that covered. So playing this move does make sense, and we need to get some kind of counterplay. And that's clearly going to be on the e3 weakness, right? So rook e8 was the way to go here. Okay, but I went queen e8, same idea, but I wanted to leave my rook on f8, which is a little unnecessary. All right, so queen g3, here comes the white pieces, bishop g6. And e4, I liked e4 by my opponent. I thought that was kind of nice. Why? Good question. Oh, because it anchors the knight on f5 mainly. That was the main thing I liked about it. Because now, when knight f5 comes and I take, they could possibly take with a pawn. Then I have to worry about stuff like pawn to f6. Because if I go g6, there's like queen here, queen in, and checkmate. There's that kind of idea. So I gotta be careful. So I liked e4 by my opponent. Yeah, it's top engine move, just checked. Okay, so e4. Yeah, so here I kind of realized, I probably thought for a while, to be honest. It says first 40 moves in 2 hours, so I was in heaven. I could think all I wanted. Okay, I decided that I better get my counterplay going right now. Because if I don't, that knight f5 thing's going to land in, and that just looks difficult. I do not want to deal with that. So got to get stuff going. So b4. So idea number one, let's make that knight a bit awkward. And then I went c5. Now, I do believe Olivia liked the move knight to c4 here. I considered this, and I should have considered it more because it does look quite good. The reason being, the idea behind this is we get here with tempo, right? We're hitting the pawn. Let's say they play, b3, kicking the knight. We can go knight d2. And I saw this position, and I was like, oh no, my knight's going to get trapped, and yeah, don't do this. I didn't even see that we're attacking the weak pawn, and we can just win it now. So this looks very strong. So I'm going to ask the engine. It actually thinks it's just equalish after knight to c6 or queen e3. Okay. Knight c6, I don't really understand. Like, I would take, right? I mean, what's wrong with that? I guess then queen e3. I'm kind of failing to see the problem here. What's wrong with this? I mean, why can't I just go, oh, maybe it's that. Actually, maybe it's that. Can I play a5 though? Why not? I could play a5. And then it says knight e to d4. So let's look at that. Knight e to d4. So here comes this knight. Guess they can jump in there. Yeah, I don't know. And the computer says equal. Okay, fine. And I should go f5. Which looks like this is a move. Am I wrong? And then we just go knight to g5 apparently. Knight g5. Pins the knight and attacks it. Okay. Well, this is getting crazy. It's starting to feel like a computer line. So let's go back. But let's suffice it to say that knight c4 does provide a certain amount of counterplay. Okay, but I went with c5, which the engine likes better. So take that, coach. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure I got lucky, but okay, c5. So idea here is if they take, I feel like the opening of the position will help me. Since there's an attack on the king side, I should counter in the center, open the center up. Plus that king, I felt like, if we open up this diagonal, I'm going to start to have play on that diagonal. I don't know. Queen b6 would be nice if I could get that. So I did think he would go knight f5. So I just go here, queen d7, king h3. Queen h3. Queen h3 does not have the threat of knight h3 check because guess what? I am protected by the knight, but definitely had to keep an eye on that one. And then I played rook a to e8. The other knight comes in. Queen d8. Okay. Queen d8. Yeah, I don't know about that move. It's probably okay. Once again, knight c4 looks like a move. For sure. So let's see what the engine says. Wow, f6. I don't think I mean, I was thinking about f6 a lot this game, but I wasn't so sure about it. It's actually giving a bunch of waiting moves here. Like a5, king h8, just slow improving moves, f6. Which is pretty interesting because I felt like the attack might get real. So I guess not, if the computer's playing like that. So I went queen d8, and yeah, the computer says this is fine. Yeah, and a3. So my opponent had the same feeling that I had at this part of the game. At this part of the game, I was like, hey, look, you're attacking my king side. You've got some nice pieces, you know. The knights are in, the queen's in, the rook's in. But I've got a lot of defenders. I've got all my pieces over here that can help with the defense. And if you can't come up with some way to continue the attack, I felt like, you know, I can start playing on the queen side or the center, and I can start getting counterplay. In which case, the white pieces might not be so well placed, and maybe black will be better. So that was sort of my idea, because I've had that happen to me when I attack. So here I was like, what can white do? I was calculating everything. I didn't see anything. Like nothing seemed to work. Especially those moves, even this kind of stuff, I didn't see working. I guess they'd have to do this first and then here. I don't know. Nothing was quite. Oh yeah, because I thought if the knight actually takes the bishop, I can actually take with the knight, and then there's not going to be much still. So yeah, my conclusion was the attack is sort of over, and I can now start with my counterplay again. And he must have thought the same thing, because when the attack ends on one area, you're supposed to open up a new front. So he's trying to get play on the queen side. Makes a lot of sense. I was kind of expecting this though. Now I played a5, which is a bit slow. In analysis, we came up with queen b6, because this comes up with like an immediate threat. First of all, if they take, we take with check. This looks pretty good. Now that's weak. We can play rook c8. There is that fork, but okay. There will be play. And otherwise, this is a threat in general. But instead I went a5. A little slow, but it's fine. And here was my brilliant idea. I mean, it's probably not that brilliant. It looks natural to take with, you know, an a pawn, but actually I was hoping to play this way. So I played a5 because I was trying to get my pawn protected by the queen. And then I planned to take here because now the c file is like open for business, and my knight has good squares. Maybe d3. I'd love to get in there. And I also have this check. And so after queen h4, yeah, and he did look a little worried, so I knew he wanted to trade queens. I just played queen b6. So that checks the king. And now I felt like this might be like the losing move. Rook f2. I don't know if I would play that. I would probably play king h1. It's what I was expecting. Let's see what the engine says. Well, it says king h1 and black is better. But, I mean, after rook f2, you know, it says -3. So, yeah, rook f2 is definitely a mistake. Just walking right into a pin, retreating a piece that was more active and better placed before this move. Yeah, and here now I went rook c8. Okay, so this is a big mistake on my part. But I was tired. Hey, give me a break. Rook c8 blunders a fork. So more on that in a second. There's actually a really cool move here for black. And if you want to pause your video and see if you can find it, it's the top engine move. Go ahead and do so now. I was eyeing up this move like crazy, I will tell you, and I didn't play it, and I really should have, especially since rook c8 is a blunder. b3. Now, that looks ridiculous, right? Like, why are we doing this? I'll tell you why. We want to play knight d3 and attack that rook, and that's going to win. It's just going to win material. We could even take with a queen, potentially, with check. And it's just going to get very ugly. The attack is real, and black is in the game. So b3 is just an undermining move. We're undermining white's control of the d3 square. Whether they take or push or try to protect it, no matter what, we just get this square, right? Like if they protect, you know, just take it. And if they take here, we go here. I mean, it just doesn't matter what they do. It's just we're getting that in. And good luck not losing the rook, right? So that's pretty much how that goes. I mean, probably the best they can do is king f1, but this looks terrible. I mean, at the very least, we can take. Yeah, I don't know. We're going to have checks. We're going to have knight d3. We're going to have, I don't know. I still like this for black. I'll see. Yeah, engine likes black. Okay. So in the game, I unfortunately played this move, and I really was disgusted with myself. It's like, oh my gosh, because I did not see the fork. I mean, I saw it earlier, and I just forgot about it. It's basically, oh, it happens, right? But the funny thing is that after he took and I took back, I realized something. I started looking at the position. I'm like, you know what? I think this exchange sack is actually okay because, yeah, let's call it a sack. Because my f8 rook was my worst piece. His knight on f5 was his best piece. And now my rook, as a result, is really well placed on c8. And it just felt like, hey, like, I don't even think I'm worse here. And actually, I'm checking with the engine. It does say that black is still slightly better. So, well, I kind of lucked into that one, but still. Once I saw that my position was still quite okay and a little bit good, it reinvigorated me. I'm like, oh, okay, this is fine. Like, if I had, let me put it this way, if I had envisioned that position, I would have been okay with it. And I might have even played rook c8. But I definitely, if I saw the fork, I would have found b3. So that's the sad part. But okay, king f1 was played. He's trying to get out of the pen. And queen d4. I loved this move. Oh, it looks like it might be a mistake. Oh, I liked it. No, it's fine. It's not a mistake. Yeah, queen d4 because I'm going to take that. And that's going to attack the rook. So, you know, that looks pretty good. And I thought if he tries to come into my position like this, for one, I have knight c4. Protect, protect. Still attacking that. But I could maybe even ignore it. Just go here. I mean, I'm on that rook. And if he takes here, how could this possibly be right? You know, like here, and this, maybe even just this. I don't know for sure, but this looks quite good. I think I could figure it out from here. So I really liked queen d4. Just seems like a good move to me. Yeah, and then sort of an anticlimactic finish. He played rook takes a5, and then and he walked away from the board, and I was just like staring at this. I'm like, what? Like what am I missing? Like, what am I missing? Because finally I played it. I'm like, that's checkmate. He comes back to the board. I'm like, that's checkmate, right? It's like, I was just astonished that after such a good game, he blundered checkmate. But I don't think he really did blunder checkmate. I think my opponent, like, especially after we analyzed a bit after the game, it seemed like he just thought he was losing here. And so my thought is that he's not allowed to resign. So he just played a move and just called it a blunder. But really, I think he wanted to resign. So there you go. I mean, yeah, because what else do you do here? Rook b1, he said, doesn't work. Why? I'm trying to remember. Well, if rook b1... Yeah, for rook b1, what was the idea? I had something here. I mean, I've got this check. I've got a4. That looks pretty good. There's a lot of ideas here for me. This would pile up on that a bit. There's knight c4. Actually, knight c4 looks really good. So, and he pointed out a lot of stuff after the game. And and I have to admit, it does look like black just has too much here. So the engine sort of disagrees, but it does like to move a4. But yeah, I guess he basically just resigned. So that was that. So kind of anticlimactic, but I think I learned a lot from this game about how to arrange my pieces when I'm defending, and how to play a bit more positionally, which has not been my main focus, to put it lightly, over the last few years. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I will tell you that I ended the tournament then at 2.5 out of 5 in the under 1800 section. So definitely not a dream score for me, but also not a total disaster. Plus, I do feel that when you end the tournament on a high note, it makes the whole tournament feel a bit better, in a sense. And because I really was at 3 draws and 1 loss, so I wasn't going to be happy with anything but a win, and so getting that win felt pretty satisfying. So anyway, this is Stacia, and I'm really excited I'm going to be really focused on my chess in the coming months. I actually retired from my office duties with Progressive Chess, at least for now, to teach a bit more, but also to work on my chess more seriously, play tournaments without working 40-50 hours a week, because that's hard to do. And I figured if I kept that up, I was never going to get my health in order, get in shape, and work on my chess and play tournaments. Like, it's just not going to happen. So I decided to go with my original plan from a few years ago and just work part-time a bit, teach part-time, and work hard on my chess. You know, I'm 43. What, should I wait till I'm 63? Like, what am I waiting for, right? So you know, you only get one life. You should live it. That's what I'm gonna do. And I want to improve at chess, so I'm gonna give it my all. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and are enjoying my journey. I should have some excitement coming in the months to come. So thank you and have a great day. See you next time.